Okay, so we are back for part 2 of the Power of Two sermon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the story of Manawee, and then we're going to get into the container aspect of how it shows up so you can have some backgrounds for the visualization of it all, okay? So here's my book, Women Run with the Wolves. There we go. As you know, this is my tried and true. I've had this for a very long since I was 19. All right, let's get into it. Manawee. There was a man who came to court 2 sisters who were twins. But their father said, "You may not have them in marriage until or unless you give their names." Manawee guessed and guessed, but he could not guess their names. The young woman's father shook his head and sent Manawee away time after time. One day, Manawee took his little dog with him on a guessing visit, and the dog saw that one sister was prettier than the other, and the other sister was sweeter than the other. Though neither sister possessed all virtues, the little dog liked them very much, for they gave him treats and smiled into his eyes. Manawee failed to guess the names of the young women again that day and trudged home. But the little dog ran back to the hut of the young women. There he poked his ear under one of the walls and heard the women giggling about how handsome and manly Manawee was. The sisters, as they spoke, called each other by their name, and the little dog heard. And he ran as fast as he could back to his master to tell him. But on the way, a lion had left a big bone with meat on it near the path, and the tiny dog smelled it immediately. And without another thought, he veered off into the brush and dragged the bone. There, he happily licked and snapped at the bone until the flavor was gone. Oh, the tiny dog suddenly remembered the forgotten task, but unfortunately, he had also forgotten the names of the young women as well. So back he ran to the twin sisters a second time. And this time it was night, and the young women were oiling each other's arms and legs and readying themselves as though for a celebration. Again, the little dog heard them call each other by their name. He hopped up in the air in a fit of delight and was racing back down the path to the hut of Manawee when from the brush something came smelling delicious, of fresh nutmeg. Now, there was nothing the little dog loved more than nutmeg. So he took a quick turn off the path and sped to where a lovely kumquat pie was sat cooling on a log. Well, soon the pie was all gone, and the little dog had a lovely nutmeg breath. As he trotted home with a very full belly, he tried to think of the young woman's names, but again, he had forgotten them. So finally, the little dog raced back to the sisters' huts again, and this time the sisters were readying themselves to be wed. Oh no, the little dog thought. There's hardly time left. And when the sisters called each other by name, the little dog put their names into his mind and sped away, absolutely, resolutely determined that nothing would stop him from delivering the precious 2 names to Manawee right away. The little dog spied some small fresh kill on the trail, but ignored it and vaulted over it. The little dog for a moment thought he smelled a curl of nutmeg on the air, but ignored it and instead ran home to his master. But the little dog did not plan for a dark stranger to leap out of the bush and grab him by his neck and shake him so hard his tail almost fell off. For this is what happened. And all the while the stranger shouted, "Tell me those names. What are those names of the young women so I may win them?" The little dog thought he himself would faint from the tight fist around his neck, but he fought bravely. He growled, he scratched, he kicked, and finally bit the giant stranger between the fingers, and the little dog's teeth stung like wasps. The stranger bellowed like a water buffalo, and the little dog would not let go. The stranger ran off into the bush with the little dog dangling from the hand. Let go of me, little dog, and I will let go of you," pleaded the stranger. And the little dog snarled between its teeth. "Don't come back here or you won't see morning ever again." And so the stranger escaped into the bush, moaning and holding his hand as he ran. And the little dog proceeded to hobble and half run down the path to Manawee. Even though his pelt was bloody, his jaws ached, the name of the young women were clear in his mind, and he limped up to Manawee beaming. Manawee gently washed the little dog's wounds, and the little dog told the whole story about the 2 names of the young women as well. Manawee raced back to the village of the young women, where the little dog was on his shoulders, riding high, the dog's ears flapping like 2 horse tails. When Manawee reached the father with the names of his daughters, the twin sisters received Manawee completely dressed to journey with him. They had been waiting for him all along. That is how Manawee won 2 of the most beautiful maidens of the Riverland. And all four, the sisters, Manawee, and a little dog, lived in peace together for a very long time to come. That's the end of Manawee. Such a good story. There's so many layers to it, but I want us to focus in on the masculine container aspect of the story. I think maybe I'll do like a live or like a TikTok on how this story relates to the duality for men and their pursuit of romance, and for women in their pursuit of romance too, because it's really, really, really insightful. But for what we're talking about here, we're going to dive deeper. So the father in the story is the one who refuses to let the twins be taken separately, who holds them both intact and will not negotiate on that. It is a symbol of something you already carry inside of you. You have the ability to be your own container. This means you absolutely have the capacity to parent yourself, to protect both sides of who you are with equal fierceness, to look at anything or anyone trying to only access the parts of you they find convenient and say no. Dr. Estés discusses another story that I won't go in depth on, but the main purpose of the story was that when you are woven together with both sides of you, you are harder to break because you are whole. But if you divide yourself internally, you are easier to be broken by society. People can witness that leak in your energy field and take advantage of it. So the intention and the goal here is that we unify these two sides of ourselves so that we are not taken advantage of. And that requires a healthy and strong container, which means you do not get one without the other. That is the divine masculine container we each have access to within. For those of us who did not have that model by a father or father figure, and unfortunately a lot of us did not, this can feel like foreign territory. Again, this has nothing to do with the man who raised you or didn't. The divine masculine container is a part of your own energy that you carry. We all have this ability. This has no association to societal binary comprehension of gender or how we identify to it. When we have a healthy masculine container, because we've been feeding both sides of ourselves, a few things begin to happen. We are provided structure. It makes it very easy for us to hit our goals and go from A to B, very masculine tendencies, right? We can set healthy boundaries. We're able to enforce them and know exactly what they are and where they are. And it protects both the softness and the wildness with equal intention because it values both, because it knows that in order for it to contain something and for it to be full, both sides are required. You have heard that saying that circulates every now and then about finally becoming the adult your younger self needed. This is exactly what we're talking about. Being aware and secure enough to decide that both sides of you deserve to be held, witnessed, and protected. This is the art and act of being self loving. Bell Hooks speaks on this in chapter 8 of Communion. She opens up this idea to us that we must be vigilant to protect our feminine self from the hatred of the world, especially as Black women. The more self loving we are, the more we can make choices that will enhance our unique individual bodies and beings. Page 110, Communion. Not just the parts that are easy for others to love, all of it. When we practice this, we create a discernment that will protect and provide for us in ways we look for in outward relationships. As we build discernment, we naturally begin to mend internal wounds that were inflicted in our youth. We will go much deeper into this kind of self parenting work in the upcoming sermon that's on the mother wound. But I wanted to plant the seed here because it is foundational to everything we are building. Now, the suitor, Manawee, the one who has to know both of their names before he can have access to either. He represents a standard we set for everyone who wants meaningful access to our lives. They need to be able to recognize and witness both sides of who we are. The version of us that is warm and easy to receive, and the version that is fierce and unapologetic. Because some people who want, because someone who only wants one of them is interested in manipulating and managing, not loving us. If you've been following this work, you already know that energy. Estes calls it Bluebeard, the natural predator. If you know, you know. Bluebeard is also the archetype that was featured in Manawee that was choking the dog up. That's still that Bluebeard energy. Please read Bluebeard. I feel like I might have to come and do another story time on that, but Bluebeard is so insightful. If you are someone who is in your early 20s, your teens even, I would prefer my teenage babies to read this too. Read Bluebeard, especially as a femme, as a Black woman, as a queer woman. Read Bluebeard. It is so insightful. It is so necessary. It is a part of your survival mentality to understand that there is a natural predator and how they move, not so that you're in fear of them, so that you know how to protect yourself. Okay. Bluebeard represents a deeply reclusive, complex, which lurks at the edge of all women's lives, watching, waiting for an opportunity to oppose her. Page 38, Women Who Run with Wolves. The moment someone tries to make you choose between your wildness and your civilized self, that is information. The story is telling you exactly who you're dealing with. If someone is making you pick and choose of like, you need to give me part of this in order to be in my life, that is already telling you that you are too much for them. That is not an invitation to cut yourself down to small, digestible pieces so that people who are not even whole enough to accept you as whole can experience some part of you that is going to become warped because it's not all of you. Okay? When both sides of the dual nature are held close together in consciousness, they have tremendous power and cannot be broken. That is the nature of the psychic of duality. No, more time. This is the nature of the psychic duality of twinning, the two aspects of women's personalities. Page 127, Women Who Run with the Wolves. So, what does the union actually look like in practice? Because this is not about arriving at some perfect version of yourself. The goal is access to the full range of who you are so that you can move through anything with both sides available to you. Sometimes it's 80-20, other times it's 60-40. Either way, you're always banking at 100%. However, the ratio shows up, one thing is certain: both of them are always in the room with you. Practice showing your teeth when that is what is needed and warming your heart when that feels aligned. You are learning to have tact and still be messy because messiness has nothing to do with failure. It highlights that we are exploring and trying something we haven't done before. It is evidence that your wildness is still alive and well. You are conjuring the kind of courage that supports you to take risks, that allow you to desire, that allows your desires to fully bloom rather than risks that look acceptable from the outside. We are developing the ability to feel safe in any environment because we trust both sides of ourselves to navigate it. Estes describes the integrated woman as someone who has recovered her wild nature, not as regression, but as restoration. A return to the most ancient and knowing part of herself that was always there, waiting for us to realize that our deepest desire is to have sovereignty over our own lives. In Sisters of the Yam, we explore self recovery for Black wellness, but the genuine daily commitment to ritualizing, knowing yourself so completely that you stop being available for anything that requires you to abandon that knowing. And in Communion, Bell writes about the hunger that lives in women who have spent too long giving themselves away in pieces, and how that hunger does not go away when you feed it with more of the same. It goes away when you come back to yourself, when you stop rationing your own when you stop rationing your own wholeness and start living from it. This is what all three of these books are ultimately pointing towards. It's not necessarily a technique or a practice for you to do 30 days from now and feel well, right? It's a way of life, a way of being that you have to build and create and explore and then protect and return to every single day for the rest of your life. And that can feel jarring of like, oh my God, every day I need to check in and see how both sides of me are doing. Yes, 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 yes. Every day. There are 24 hours in a day in this time conception we've all agreed to, right? You need to take time to check in with both sides of yourself. Hell, check in with your inner child, check in with your Ori, your higher self, check in with your ancestors or your angels, check in with the deities that you pray to, your God. You should have that time cultivated to check in with your spiritual selves. Yes, absolutely. If that feels daunting, it's because you need to start with baby steps. Maybe baby steps are, I'll give you what I do now and where I started. Okay, so what I do now is that when I wake up in the morning, I'm praying to my hands, right? I'm praying to the extension of my heart that I'm able to provide and create, right? I'm praying to my Ori, my higher self. I'm praying to my ancestors. I'm praying to the deities that I work with, right? Um, I'm checking in with how I feel. How do I feel? I'm journaling about that. I'm documenting that. Super important to do, right? When I was younger, um, it wasn't as layered. It was simply just reciting Psalms 23 because that was a part of my family's legacy and lineage. It was a verse that the women in my lineage used to realign themselves, to protect themselves. It was a prayer. It was a way to connect to source. So both have power, right? One's a little bit more layered because these are things that make sense for me to do now. But let me tell you something. When I am going through a tough time, I remember when I had just been diagnosed with lupus and I was in the hospital and it was just like really crazy. Like I had gotten really, really sick. No one knew what was going on. It was like a really rough time. And I think that they were going in to do something. I was essentially being put into anesthesia. The one thing that came to my mind was Psalms 23. Like off the bat, it just popped up from muscle memory for me to say, to keep my mind relaxed, to keep my body relaxed, to anchor myself to my ancestry, to God, to ensure that I was going to pull through. It was an instinctive thing. And I said it until I woke back up. And that too was me checking in with both sides of myself in a moment where I felt very vulnerable, right? These are the things that I want you to sit with and to remember. Like this is why we do the routine so that it becomes ritual. Because in the moments where we really need it, it really will provide us solace. So yes, it needs to happen every single day. And yes, you can take it step at a time, each step at a time to build up on something that makes sense to you. And I also want to say in the same breath, don't overcomplicate it. Okay. Don't make it super weird where it's like a 20,000 step. I've done that and like it's cute for the first day or so, but it's not sustainable. We are taking in so much information all the time from social media, from nature itself, from the relationships that we are engaging in, from the things that we digest through books and shows and movies and music. We're constantly taking a shit ton of information in. You're not going to always have the capacity to do a 20-step morning routine plan, right? You're not going to always have the capacity to, recite the entire book of Psalms, right? Like sometimes you need a little something to keep you, to help you remember that you're connected. Not necessarily to keep you connected. You're always connected. You're always connected. You're always connected to source, to your wild side, to your civilized side, to your ancestors, to your deity. You're always in connection. That connectivity doesn't go away. However, your awareness of it can because of the dulling from society and oppression. So doing these small acts to stay connected to the duality of yourself is more precious than gold. Okay. The confidence that comes from the integration stops needing external validation to sustain itself. The clarity about who to draw close, who to build with, who to love, and how becomes less complicated because you are making those decisions from a place of genuine knowing rather than depletion or longing. The ability to walk into a room and feel the full weight of your own presence and not having to announce that you're that girl. These are all experiences that you get to have when you are in divine union with self. The dreams that stop feeling like fantasies and start feeling like directions, right? These two things are true at once. You are already whole and you are always in the practice of remembering that. The wild and the civilized, the fierce and the graceful, the dark and the luminous. That is a law of polarity in motion. That is the full range of your beauty and your power. And the divine union we keep talking about is not something you find, it is something you have access to. And you continue to have access to again and again. And every time you refuse to choose between the two of them, you are fortifying that access to power. We will keep returning to this thread because it runs throughout all of this work. Next, we're going to get into the mother wound and crone consciousness because integration does not happen in a vacuum. It happens through lineage, through wisdom of women who came before us and the ones who are still here. But that is for next time, okay? For now, I want you to practice knowing both of your names and honoring both of yourselves, okay? So here's some reflection questions for you, and we'll probably wrap up there, okay? Reflection. This is the part where I need you to slow down with me. Come back into your body, into your breath, into the physical space you're sitting in right now. Everything we just talked about lives somewhere within you and within this digital home. And these are some questions here to help you find and explore more of it. Number one, I want you to place your hand over your chest for a moment. You might want to close your eyes and turn inward. You don't have to, but you're invited to. Really notice the warmth of your skin, the beat of your heart, the rise and fall of your chest as you breathe in and you exhale. Maybe soften your shoulders as you do so. And I want you to ask this question: which one of your two sides is closest to the surface today? And what is she trying to tell you? Okay. You can place your hand down, and we're going to get into question number two. Where in your body do you feel the internal split most? Is it your throat, your stomach, your chest? Maybe it's a mindset or a thought. What has staying silent or staying small actually felt like physically over time? I want you to sit with that one. Number three, think about the last time you felt completely like yourself. Not like you're performing or managing or shrinking, but ultimately you felt like all of you. You felt very alive and present. Maybe you were even in a flow state. What did that feel like in your body? And what shifted when it was over? Number four, who in your life knows both of your names? And when you sit with that question, really sit with it. What does your body say before your mind has a chance to answer? Okay. And number five, if two things can be true at once, if your wildness and your civilized side can exist together without canceling the other out, what becomes possible for you that hasn't felt possible before? These questions are also down below in the show notes section of the sermons. I'm going to have them both on both sides. Well, actually, no, I'll probably have it for this video. Yeah, I think that'll be easier. For further reading, I don't have my third book with me, but you can always start with Women Who Wrote Wolves, right? It's a great book to get into to continue learning about the dual self. Then we also have Sisters of the Yam by Bell Hooks, and then Communion by Bell Hooks too. That one's in my living room, but those three books are my recommendations to continue reading. I'll still be pulling from them as we move into our next sermon topic, which again is about the mother wound and crone consciousness. I'm really excited. If you want to go deeper into the full theological and literary framework behind the sermon and the year's theme of duality, I have hyperlinked the complete 2026 syllabus below. Again, the time frame is completely different now, okay? Completely different, but maybe the topics will be explored in 2026. So be ready. And what I encourage you to do is in the meantime, go back and you look through the notes below, the show notes. You're going to see that I've hyperlinked a few different pieces that I want you to dive into. There's also like a video there for you to watch too on the three levels of femininity so you can learn exactly what that means and looks like for you in your life. Essentially, I want you to take the time to study it. Watch the videos over again. Watch the sermons again. Share them with someone you love. Have a conversation about it. I want to create time in between the next one for you to really dive in deep and indulge, to revisit the reflection questions, to really sit with each understanding of the civilized and the wild side and share those findings with us. You're more than welcome to leave a comment below. You can DM me if need be. You can email me if need be. This is a community that we are actively engaging in. Your intellect, your insights, they do matter. They're coming up to be shared. I encourage you to share them. I'm always going to encourage you to share them thoughtfully, right? And with a level of respect, making sure that we are not um, overindulging in maybe something that can feel traumatic without giving fair warning so that we aren't triggering other people unnecessarily, of course, but ultimately sharing what comes up for you because we are connected in this collective. Okay. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for being here with me for this sermon. I hope that it served you well, that it is inspiring you to reconnect to yourself and to check out more of my essays and EFT tapping sequences and other offerings on in my digital home. Okay. I love you so much, and I'll see you soon.